Sam Armstrong, let's come back to Ukraine. We've got lots of calls coming in on this, so I'll get to those as soon as I can. But so we'll keep our comments, I think, a bit briefer than they were earlier, because you and I, we could do the full 3 hours on this. Third anniversary of the Russian invasion, the full-scale invasion. 2014 was an invasion of Crimea, of course, by Russia. Zelensky offering to stand down in return for peace and NATO membership. Donald Trump wanting money back. We had a caller earlier, Peter, saying, well, America wants his money back. America didn't offer loans to Ukraine to help them stand firm against Vladimir Putin until January the 20th. I think most people were under the impression that Vladimir Putin was the baddie, but apparently not according to Donald Trump. What do you make of this battle between Zelensky and Donald Trump, a war of words almost?
Well, I think Donald Trump has got himself into a position in which he's mistaken. I don't think it is to do with the compromat or anything like this.
You don't think Putin's got anything on him?
I don't think Putin has got anything on him. I think what we have is a situation here in which Donald Trump has been misadvised by people around him, and Tulsi Gabbard and others. I have serious concerns about. I don't think they're good people, his Director of National Intelligence. And he's got himself into a complete and utter pickle. And what Donald Trump does, credit to him, is when he gets into a place, he's always fighting, and he will fight until the last minute. Now, look, everybody makes mistakes. I don't believe in perfect people and evil people, right? But most people are somewhere on the spectrum. Donald Trump has made a mistake, and it's a feature of his personality that he's only going to double down.
He's not going to row back.
Way.
Yeah. But what do you make? I mean, we've got all the European leaders. I mean, right now, a lot of the other sort of media broadcasters, they've got, speech after speech in Kyiv. And we've got, the Ursula von der Leyen. By the way, if you want to talk about dictator, unelected, hello. Do you remember electing her when you were in the EU? I don't. But you've got, all these other world leaders. We've got Zoom from Keir Starmer, and everyone is saying their bit and offering their support. Again, I know Britain was at the forefront of offering support to Ukraine, and we had since 2014 been training troops and the like. I've never felt that Europe has done enough. We weren't able to do enough because we don't have enough military might ourselves. And Germany, by the way, was absolutely shocking. I think they offered sort of some second-hand helmets. Mind you, Germany some years back did some NATO training, didn't they? Did some of these training missions, and they had to use, while Ursula von der Leyen, by the way, was the German defence minister, they had to use broomsticks. They used just broomsticks as guns because they didn't have enough guns. So most European countries, certainly the Western rich countries, haven't got enough military to defend ourselves, let alone another country. They've needed America. But the new, likely German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, he's saying, look, NATO could be finished. I've been worried for a long time that even if a NATO country was invaded, whether it's Poland, whether it was the Baltic states, that actually NATO countries wouldn't stand up. People like Germany and others were dragged kicking and screaming to help Ukraine. I mean, is it now fundamentally the reality that America ain't going to be guaranteeing peace in Europe anymore, and we all need in the West to stand up for ourselves? And that, I'm afraid, is going to cost an awful lot of money.
Well, if it is, it won't be America's fault. Let me tell you whose fault it will be. It will be politicians in Europe who have been warned again and again and again that you signed up to a treaty saying that you would do something, and yet again, every single time you have failed to do it. We're always lectured by these people, right, by the way, that, you signed up to a treaty, you have to respect international law.
Oh, they care about international law desperately, don't they, when it suits them?
Where was their respect for their commitment in an international treaty of exactly the same standing to spend that money? If you want to know who is a Russian agent, by the way, in my view, Olaf Scholz is a far more likely candidate, the outgoing German Chancellor, than Donald Trump.
Totally beholden to the Russians.
He has sold out the energy position of Germany in a way that has pumped billions upon billions of euros into the Russian economy. He has systematically failed to arm Ukraine. He has done the bare minimum possible to rearm his own country, and the German people and indeed many other European nations have enriched themselves, and I put it this starkly, have enriched themselves at the expense of the American taxpayer. So if you want to know who to blame, for America pulling the plug after 30 years of this, look at your own governments, look at the decisions they've made, look at the nonsense woke rubbish they've been funding instead of paying for our military, and start by dealing with them. And then, and only then, may you just save the NATO system that has kept our continent free and safe for so long.
In Britain, many countries, the Polands, the Latvias, they get it. They've been spending the correct percentage of their GDP on defence because they understand that the real-time threat of a Russian invasion. They've lived under Russian control before. They know what that means. But this is the thing. Everyone's living in fantasy land. Yeah, let's just spend more on benefits for people who are perfectly able-bodied. Let's just plough more money into the NHS and not expect any more operations to be done. Let's just give, for no reason at all, the Mauritians 18 billion quid of our money to take a country they have got no claim on whatsoever, take the Chagos Islands. We throw money around on stuff, but then completely forget that you have to be able to protect yourself and your allies. I find it extraordinary, but I also find it extraordinary. I've got a full board of calls. I promise we're going to get to them. I just find it utterly extraordinary how many people do not get that this is an existential battle for democracy in Europe against a evil. I mean, I would use that word evil about him, not a word I throw around lightly about Vladimir Putin. That man would happily kill people with his own bare hands. That man cares about nothing. Have you seen what his troops have been ordered to do in Ukraine? It's absolutely shocking. And how anybody could stand by and say, well, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, or it's the Russian sphere of influence. Well, yeah. Let's give him East Germany as well, then. Yeah, happy to give him East Germany. Where else do you want to give him? Yeah, I mean, where else are you going to give Putin? Because I think a lot of those people might have something to say about it, and I think we've got such weak Western leadership and across the board, we really have. And people are just now waking up to the reality that we are living in a very dangerous world and we need to get our act together. And 2.3% of the country's GDP, which has been flatlining for 20 years pretty much, going on our self-defence is simply not enough, especially when half of that basically is nuclear deterrent, which I'm fully in favour of, only if people are willing to use it. But that means we haven't got that money to be spent on conventional warfare, which we really need to do. And I don't know where anyone got the idea that the world was getting safer. I mean, the Islamo-Fascism threat alone would account for needing more spending, let alone Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin and everything else going on. But there we are. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, question I'm asking, who do you trust most on Ukraine? Is it Donald Trump? Is it Zelensky? Is it Putin? Give us a call, 0244 499 1000. We're going to have some new sanctions announced from David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, on oligarchs with links to the Kremlin. 3 years on from the war. I mean, that's how useless our governments have been. Let's talk briefly about the German elections. Do you think that the CDU, basically Angela Merkel's old party, Friedrich Merz is the leader now, winning that the majority, well, the biggest party in the German parliament, they're going to go into a coalition with the SPD. So it's basically the Tories and Labour in coalition, to all intents and purposes. They're keeping out the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland. Do you think that has a warning for Britain, and particularly for Labour and the Tories, about the threat of Reform UK, Nigel Farage?
Yeah, let's be clear what it is. It's an establishment stitch-up that's going on in Germany in order to keep out the challengers there. Now, look, I got my problems for those challengers, but here's the thing. The situation in Germany is going to get worse over the next 5 years. Of course it is, right? They're going to keep up with the same old stupid policies that have driven them into this mess in the first place. And what are the German people going to say at the next election, right? You all clubbed together to try and keep these guys out. Yep. These guys told you it was a problem. We said that 20% of us plus have said that, like, we're prepared to countenance these guys. We sent you a message. You didn't listen. It's got worse. And next time round, believe me, you may well see an AfD chancellor walking into the Bundestag as the leader, and then all hell is going to break loose.
I think that I can certainly see that the main parties could actually do exactly as Labour and the Tories here. They talk a good game about tackling immigration, not having mad, policies like the net zero. They might talk about some of these things, but they don't really mean any of it. That's the main issue, because at least people know the AfD, and again, I don't think they're a comparable party with Reform UK. I don't like people saying far right. They've got some very nasty elements in the AfD. But people will say, well, if we're going to have a party that's going to carry out these policies, we'd rather have a party that we think actually means it.
Yeah, and Julia, here's the thing. they can't lie about it anymore, right? They can't lie about immigration. It has reached a stage in which it affects every single high street in this country. Wherever you walk, whenever you attempt to access a service, whenever you go for a job, you are facing the consequences of mass uncontrolled migration that was imposed upon you against your repeated democratic will. It's the same in Germany, it's the same here, and these mainstream politicians can say all they want, but the lie just doesn't wash it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, it really doesn't. And again, you look at the number of terror attacks as well. I mean, just day after day after day on mainland Europe. And we have seen a lot here, and a lot that are stopped here as well, being stopped by authorities. But it's just off the scale. And nearly always by people who've been on a watch list, who shouldn't be in the country. And again, people talk about, oh, the AfD, they're in favour of deportations. What, of people who've got no right to be in your country? Yeah, who isn't in favour of that? What psychopath thinks you have no right to be here, but you should absolutely stay here? Well, apart from all of our immigration tribunal judges, it would appear. We've really got to get rid of this stuff. We do. Can I just ask you also though about this Doge email? Elon Musk basically saying to government staff, can you please tell us by midnight on Monday? What did you actually achieve last week? What did you actually get done? 5 bullet points, please. No, don't reply with anything that's officially a secret or anything. If you don't reply, we will assume that you have decided to resign. Same as that, if you don't turn up for work in your office, you've been working from home, if you don't turn up to the office on Thursday, whenever it was, you will consider you've resigned. Don't we need a bit of that here?
I mean, since when do you have the right to a job in which you do nothing? Since when is that some divine right handed to you that you go into the public sector, you clock in, you clock out, you retire 30 years later on some gold-plated pension? In this country, productivity in the private sector in the last 30 years has gone up by about 30%. It's not as much as it should, but it's gone up a lot. It has stayed totally static in the public sector. These people, despite the fact that they've got the internet, despite the fact they've got computers and all this AI stuff that's helping them get on with stuff, have got no more efficient. Why? Because they are 30% lazier than they were a generation ago. And we are told as taxpayers to just accept it. Look, I'm self-employed. I've been fired by clients, I've been hired by clients. It happens all the time. And every day that I go in to do work for someone, I know I have to justify the business case for me being there. And frankly, if you can't come up with a bullet point list of what you've achieved in a full-time job in the course of a week, then maybe it didn't need doing in the chuffing
I say one of my things is chuffing. We need to say the word chuffing more on this show. I like that. I had a temp, lots of temp secretarial jobs. And, I was waitressing, do everything. I was straight after uni and before uni. But I had a temp job, and genuinely, it was 2 weeks I was in this office, and the boss at the end of it said to me, he said, how's it been? I said, it's been the most exhausting job I've ever done in my life. So I said, because trying to look busy is exhausting. Your secretary does nothing all day. There is nothing to do. It's not like she's got everything done beforehand and there's loads of stuff storing up and I'm not able to do it. Your secretary does absolutely not. I'm trying to do someone out of a job, but someone is taking the mick here. How people do a job where they just have to try and look busy a lot of the time. I suppose that's why you like to work from home, because you can walk the dog and do the laundry at the same time, can't you? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do get in touch.